Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Joanne.
All right, here we go. It's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, the Women's Broadcast TV Network, iCheap247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. And so this is a special show. This is about the arts. This is about poetry. This is about things that people can really just, when they want to pick up a book, really go into. So I'm going to start with this. Thelma, tell me, who are you? Where'd you come from? And how did you become a laureate? How did that happen?
Wonderful questions, and I'll try to be brief. Okay, my name is Thelma Reyna. I live in Pasadena, California, and I was born and raised in Texas, but I've been here in Pasadena now for a little over 50 years. I was a high school English teacher, high school administrator. I took early retirement so I could get back to my first love, which was publishing, writing and publishing. I used to do it off and on, short stories, poems, essays, newspaper, opinion pieces, off and on over the years. But I wanted to write a book. So I retired, and in 2009, my first book, a collection of short stories, came out, The Heavens Weep for Us and Other Stories. And since then, I've gone on to, in fact, today, I sent off to press I guess it's my 9th or my 10th book, which is an anthology of 45 distinguished writers, poets, short story writers, essayists from across 10 states in America about the pandemic, from the beginning of January, for documenting in real time. I have over 100 writings in there, documenting in real time the invasion of the pandemic in America and up until this time. So we see poems, stories, essays from people across the nation, very diverse group, generationally, culturally, regionally, stylistically, whatever. And that book hopefully is coming out next month. But the book that I might want to talk about with you today is the book I did just before this one. This one came out early this year already, so I'm gonna have 2 books out in 2020. And this is a memoir in poems about my husband. We were married 50 years, and he died very suddenly in very minor surgery. So I started writing this book about a couple of weeks after he died, and I spent my entire first grieving year, which was 2019. He died in late 2018. In 2019, in real time, my first year as a widow, I wrote about him, how I felt, the loss, his life, how we met, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is a memoir in poems about him. And it just won 2 national book awards, the International Latino Book Awards. It just won finalist. It's in contention for the grand prize in Best Poetry Book in English. This is an international award. And it also won a finalist designation in Best Biography, which was surprising. It's in poems and it's about his life. So I did a very, usually a Poet Laureateship is a couple of years. I did that in 2014 through 2016 in a small city here right across the street from where I live. In California, all the cities are, I don't know if Joanna knows, because I don't know where Joanna's from.
I'm from
but in Southern, yeah. Oh, okay. I was born and raised in Texas, and in Texas, the next town is like 20 miles over, and there's a lot of open land. But here in California, you cross the street, and you're in another city. So we have Pasadena, where I live, and then literally just a street over begins Altadena. I was a laureate in Altadena. And that was an application process, a committee of people, including the prior Poet Laureate, and a select committee looked at probably about 24 applications at that time to be the laureate, and surprisingly they chose me. But I loved it, and as a laureate, I edited 2 anthologies that was my project. That was the Altadena Poetry Review Anthology in 2015 and 2016. So those were my first 2 anthologies. The pandemic one coming out in September is going to be my 3rd anthology as an editor. So
my God, you've been busy. That's amazing.
Well, my husband was also a high school teacher. He taught math, and he retired early retirement, a year before I did. And I always knew that I didn't want to retire at 65 or 70. I wanted to retire while I still had a little bit of spring in my step. So I had always planned on retiring early so I could get back to writing full time. And so I warned my husband ahead of time. I said, honey, when I retire, I'm not going to be sit around the house. I'm not going to be, gone fishing. I'm not going to be just doing little nothings. When I retire, I'm pursuing a different chapter in my life. I'm going to be going down a different path. And I explained it to him. So I said, so I'm not going to retire. In fact, baby boomers, I'm a baby boomer, are famous for this. Baby boomers do not retire because they no longer want to work. They retire because they want to work at something different. And that's one of the hallmarks of the baby boom generation. And so I've been lucky, knock on wood, there's a lot of wood around me here. Knock on wood, I've been blessed, I've been lucky that, and he was so supportive that I've been able to pursue my writing and my publishing dreams.
I'm very happy for you because you seem so happy. You've got this glow around you. I mean, that's great. But also I'm looking at it like, my God, I don't think you slowed down during the pandemic. So, okay, so you're the 12th person I know out of the 1,000 people. That's not enough of us slowing down, you know? Congratulations on that. And it's a pleasure and an honor to meet you this way. And then, so with Joanna out of Ontario, Canada, it's one of the things where her site is.
Oh, wow, far away.
And it's, anti-bullying. And then, last week's show, we were talking about with one of our other writers, or she writes for the Art of Montague, and my colleague, Montague Pope LeBeau, obviously,
yes,
I have you on with all the stuff that you have. And it's an honor to do that because all of a sudden I'm getting poetry books sent to me. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. And then
you lucky guy.
Well, I was like, okay, they're sending me poetry, like I know what I'm talking about with it. I do not. I started flipping through it. I'm like, well, this is actually pretty good. Okay, I guess I'm going that direction now. So it's kind of interesting.
Well, as I'm saying, there's always an opportunity at some point in your life to pursue a totally different path. You've sung this song, Dance This Dance, and now you want to go take a different journey in your life. And that's how I've seen my retirement. And again, I was so fortunate that my husband was so utterly supportive, because I know a lot of authors, especially women authors, that do not have that, that supportiveness from their significant other. It's like, why are you doing all that? You're just sitting at a computer, you're wasting your time. I'm not rich and I'm not famous, but being an author with my husband's supportiveness and my friends, Montague, and my network has been so fulfilling, so much fun. Even though I'm not rich and famous over it, I never went into it for money, because writers, don't go into it because you want to become rich.
Joanna, I know you have a question because you can understand and feel a lot what she was just talking about, right?
Yeah, because what my story is that about a year ago, I would never think I would have my own website and be writing poetry and writing it as easily as I can write it and write what I feel down. I never thought I was a great writer. I never thought this could have the potential to take me somewhere. I'm still figuring out the ropes as time is going by, even just to get my work out there, because I know I have such faith in my own words and my own story as well. And what you do is absolutely extraordinary. I'm in awe of your story, and I would love to read everything that you have been involved with, because I just think it's absolutely inspirational as a person, that what you just said about going down, singing a song and just being like, I'm going to change courses. Yeah, I'm doing that right now in my life, and I'm trying really hard to just take the route to see where my words will lead me. But yeah, I do have questions because I'm just starting out. I have a website out. It's called Trending Me. And the basis of this website, it just stemmed from me feeling like I've never fit in with my feelings, with my looks, with me in society as a young girl, as a first generation Greek Cypriot in Canada, with a very not strict but very cultural family. Am I Greek enough? Am I not Greek enough? Am I Canadian enough? Am I not Canadian enough? And not being able to do the things that, you know, my other friends would have been able to do. And just like, it's just been like this constant identity struggle for me. And now, as I'm 25 years old, and I'm realizing the programming of my brain and where it all came from. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. Why am I thinking this way about myself? Why am I shutting all these feelings down as if they are not valid or real? And writing has helped me. Never thought I would be publishing or putting my work out there, but now it is. I'm doing that on my website. And yeah, I just think what you're doing is absolutely extraordinary. And I was just wondering, like, what is your advice to somebody like me who wants to get her stuff out there, who wants to be more involved and to learn more? What is your advice?
Well, first of all, I want to say congratulations on what you have done, Joanna. And I do not think it is unusual at all for you to be having these conflicting feelings. I think, as you very clearly have described to us, you come from a very diverse background. You are relatively new as generationally. And you're in Canada, and you are very fortunate that you have multiple identities. You know, I heard Greek Cypriot, and now you're a Canadian, and that in itself is a challenge when you're trying to balance backgrounds, identities, and trying to find your balance. And I think at your point in life, it is not unusual to do that. I think people who are your age, who were born in America, lifelong Americans, for example, that's all I know, they could still be going through a lot of what you're describing, a lot of angst, a lot of identity crisis. Who am I? I am a Latina. I am a fifth generation Hispanic American, and I know what you're talking about because I felt it too when I was growing up. You know, am I Latina? I want to be an American, and it's always a thing. But congratulations to you for having chosen poetry as a path to really learn more about yourself and to cement, so to speak, what your feelings are about different things. So I wouldn't feel bad about it. I would be proud of your journey if I were you. And I'll stop there, but I also want you to know I have a very soft spot in my heart for what we call emerging poets or aspiring poets. That's a broad category for any new writer in the field. And you're just a perfect stage to be at that point. And never, ever be afraid to ask questions or to express reservations or concerns or confusion. You're perfect. You are perfect. You are at a perfect point in your life.
Thank you. And what would you right now? I would just love to get my work out there. How do I do that?
Okay. Yeah. Well, you are lucky, Brian. I think you'll probably agree too. She is so lucky. We're lucky. All three of us are so lucky to be living in this internet age, because connecting, getting your questions answered is so much easier, not just with a friend or a human being as we three are doing here, but if I were in Joanna's shoes, I would start Googling whatever the topic is. For instance, our nation right now, and I know here in California, we have a lot of indie book presses. I have one. In fact, mine is called a micro indie book publisher. Micro indie book publisher. I've published at 10 books so far, and my press, Golden Foothills Press, is only 6 years old. So a micro indie publisher publishes up to 5 books a year. So far, we're going on 2, and I have another one scheduled. So I've been doing about 3 or so a year. Okay, there are many, many, many publishers like myself in America, and especially in California. You might even want to look, it doesn't matter where you live. I mean, look, we're talking to Brian, and Brian's in Tennessee, and we're chatting as to
Well, I'm in Vegas
and you're
right
in
now,
Canada,
but in
and we're
general,
all
yeah.
chatting as to we're in the same room. So okay, so Google indie book publishers and then choose a region in Canada, and Southern Canada, and the state in Canada that you live in California, wherever. Indie book publishers, and just scroll through and start learning about them, what they are. I can think of a lot of indie book publishers that would be so happy to take a look at your work. And I know a number of friends around here in my part of the nation that are just got a publishing contract, or their book is in press, and it's with indie book publishers. I've never heard their names, but I know they must be good for these wonderful friends of mine, poets and others, to have chosen them. So keep your mind open and start with a Google search. And I think you're going to find a lot of channels. And secondly, and today is the first day of this for you and me, but secondly, learn who some of the poets are, some of the published writers are, and establish a connection with them, network with them. One of the most important things I've learned as a writer, as an author, is that we are never in it alone. We must not be lone wolves working in the darkness of our basement or whatever. We've got to be part of a community, and the broader, and I know Brian knows this with his connection with Montague, because Montague Pope LeBeau is a wonderful example of forming a community, reaching out, getting to know other poets, email them, learn about their books, buy their books, read their books, send them emails with affirmation, go to their Amazon sites and write a little blurb of a testimonial. Reciprocity, so we connect with authors, we do things for them that boost them, and in turn, and it's not the motivation, but in turn, naturally, then they support us. And your social media is a good place to start. Establish your presence and go to other Facebook and media, learn about who they are, post things on them, and slowly you're not going to be alone, and you're going to have a lot of ideas for what to do next and where to go next.
That's such great advice. Like I'm in contact with Montague. I speak with him about every 1 or 2 weeks, and I do write for Montague, and it's just very nice to be already being thrown into a community of people who appreciate art and know how to express it in various forms. And it's not just poetry, it's even, I find a movie review is a piece of art. It's like what you take from the movie, and how you resonate with a certain moment in a movie, or even short stories, or things that are just so versatile, because that's what it is, and that's what writing is. And I really do appreciate that advice, and I really thank you for that. And also, I also just would love to know, because I like to pick people's brains, but as a writer, I think we're all very different, and we have different stories, different experiences, and we write in different ways. Like I guess you could compare and contrast writing, but no matter what, they're all going to be individual to that person. So what is your writing routine like? Do you write when you feel something? Do you just go to your computer, you go to your notepad and start writing, or do you have like this kind of certain time of day you sit down and you write? Like where does the magic come from?
Oh, that's such a wonderful question, and you're not going to like my answer.
It's okay. Like,
I am so embarrassed to say I'm not that disciplined. I know writers, particularly poets, but you know, as I mentioned, I've published short stories before and essays and a number of things. So I'm with you. I love all the iterations and expressions of art. Um, it's always in my head. I said to a colleague long ago, and 40 years later, he still says it to me, remembering it, and we chuckle over it. There are always stories going on in my head, always, always. I'm standing in a grocery store, I overhear part of a snippet, I see a headline on a magazine. Sometimes it's I'm driving down the road, I'm creating poems in my head. Usually by the time I sit down and type on my laptop, usually by then I've already created the poem in my head. And so you just go with the flow. I have never been, this is part you might not like, I have never been the type of writer who sits down every single day or almost every day and writes. You know, that has a box full of poetry that they've written and just put away, never published. I've never been that. I write when I have a purpose, when I have a goal. For instance, my Dearest Papa book, I had a big motivator. My husband, my beloved husband of 50 years, had just died suddenly, like a thunderbolt out of the sky. So within 2 weeks, I was writing, and knowing that I was going to produce a book about him, to honor him. I wrote almost every single day, but not every day and not throughout the day, but it was a year's labor, okay, because I had that motivation and I had that purpose that was very clear. With a pandemic book back in early February, when I saw what was about to hit us, and I heard the fear in scientists and doctors, even though not our politicians in Washington, they were, who cares, right? And now we're in the mess we're in. But when I first started hearing about it and talk about we were going to shut down and all of that, is when I decided I'm going to write an anthology. I'm going to reach out, and here's where the networking that I talked to you about. I'm going to reach out to 45, and don't ask me where I hit that. I started out with 40 writers that I know either personally or through my emailing relationships that I've developed for 10 years or so. I'm going to reach out to them from all over the nation, and I'm going to personally invite each one of them personally to send me up to 5 pieces, essays, stories, poems, whatever, about how they are living this pandemic, how it's affecting them. And so over a period of months, they were writing and sending me things. So I knew I had a vision for the whole book. I had a purpose, I had a timeline, and that kept me just focused, writing, editing, communicating, phoning them, you know, suggestions about their works. And here we are. My book is now in press. I'll be getting the first galley proof, hopefully by the end of the week. Okay, so that's how I have functioned. Just what hit me, something, a death of someone, a friend of someone, but mostly having a specific purpose. I want to submit to that anthology. I want to submit to that journal. I've been asked to submit here. So there's like a goal in mind, and that causes me to sit down and to really think and to really get it done. But
that must be very interesting of all the stuff that was sent to you, I think.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I got a little over 100 pieces, and the book is going to have about 100. The book will have about 115 pieces representing 45 authors. And so far, I mean, they are all distinguished authors. Wait till you read their bios, and I've got their photographs in the book as well. But the whole point being, Joanna, that there are a lot of writers. I know a lot of writers that diligently every single day, like clockwork. They pick a time, they pick a place, and they force themselves to write. I've just never had that level of discipline. But
I know.
whatever works for you, whatever works for you.
Honestly, you said that what you said was bad, because what you just said is exactly how I am when I write.
I didn't mean to insult you. I was
No. I mean, I'm the one. I don't sit there diligently at a time and a place, and I'm like, I'm gonna write something right now. It's more so like if I get, like what you said, when I get a thought in my head. Like last night, I put on my website a thing about freedom, and I was just in my bed writing it on my phone. It was just something that was in my head, and it was the spur of the moment. But going back to your book and the poems about your husband, that must have been so cathartic for you. That must have been so when you were writing that, did you realize things about yourself and about your husband and your relationship that you never would have if you wrote those words that you did?
Yes. And there were times that that I'd be weeping as I'd be writing. Sometimes I'd be on the floor, writhing in agony. But most of the time, it all the whole year just was calm enough, and I think I was experienced enough that you go through those moments. So sometimes writing something that's dear to your heart can be very painful, but you set it aside. You allow your emotions to play out. You never suppress them. That's not good.
But I think that's one of the good things about the writing, right?
Is telling you to do at the time, and you can get back to it. Pardon?
I think that's one good thing about you.
Pardon?
Is that you guys can get it out, where I'm not that writer. I have to vocalize it. I wish I could do what you guys do. And I kind of laugh. Man, I wish I had your talent of writing. I got to read what you guys created. I'm more like, I talk like how you guys write.
Which is an art. But I guess a short answer to Joanna is yes, I learned a lot. And in fact, I started out my book with a foreword where I'm speaking to the audience about why I wrote this book. And I learned, one of the main things I learned, which I think is a lesson all of us can take, is don't live life as if you are going to be here forever. And I think this pandemic is teaching us that too. You never know when you're going to be gone. I mean, my husband and I walked out of our house that day. We had a dinner date. And by the end of that day, I came home alone because he passed away in the hospital on the operating table. So it was cathartic. It was very, very helpful. I've done research in my prior book to that. Reading Tea Leaves After Trump was framed around the 5 stages of grief and loss. And with this book, Dearest Papa, I also roughly framed it in that, the 5 stages of grief and loss. Anytime any one of us experiences a significant loss, whether it's a death of someone, whether it's a loss of a limb, whether it's divorce or whatever, most human beings, according to Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the author of that, we go through 5 stages of grieving. And I went through all of them, and we all do. So knowing that, expecting that, understanding that process of grieving helped me a lot with writing this book. And yes, I learned a lot about him. I think my esteem for him just grew exponentially after reflecting, because it causes you to go back and reflect and relive things. So it was a very teaching, enlightening process, as well as a cathartic one. And thank you. That was a wonderful question. I hope I answered it.
You definitely did. And what I'm getting out of your answer and just this whole conversation is that writing is such an underrated craft that I believe some people just really overlook and don't really focus how powerful writing can be, and how somebody like you and somebody like me, and we can express our vulnerabilities and be so vulnerable that it may even scare ourselves. But then there are some people who don't know how to express themselves, or even if you're having an anxiety attack, you know, writing is actually proven to slow down your brain, to make your thoughts flow, and realize why these things are going on. And I believe now, especially with the political climate, I'm in Canada, I'm watching it all. I'm not necessarily into it. I
Yeah.
mean, into America right now, but I do.
Yeah.
All of us do watch the American news because we're next door neighbors, and we're just prone to do that. And it's absolutely ridiculous and infuriating when you watch the news and you don't know what to believe now, because there's all these different stories and everything's just so corrupt. And I just believe writing is the biggest tool, biggest, most important tool there is right now. I think it always has been. It always has been since time. If we want to talk historically, yes, writing has always been a way for people to express how they feel and really show the world the truth. And I believe, like I said, this is what you're doing is absolutely extraordinary, especially with the pandemic, because everybody's going through a different experience. You know, this person may have children and they cannot support themselves. This person's all alone, may not be able to support themselves either. Everything's so different, but you can connect, and with one thing, everybody can connect with each other through their own stories. And yeah, I think that's just amazing to listen to you. I could just
Oh, well,
hear
thank
you speak for
you. Well,
so long.
I'm going to make sure that you have my email address and my
Oh, of
phone number.
course.
I'll share it with Brian because I've got his email. And then I invite you to please stay in touch with me because, yeah, as I say, authors and Brian, you know, you're right that your art is through the spoken word, but you're in the same boat that all three of
Yeah.
us are. You're an artist too, and you're still doing everything that we as writers have to do. You still have to reflect, you have to plan, you have to analyze, you have to synthesize, you have to put everything together so coherently in the most impactful way you can. And
And
each
that's
one of
my
your
focus like that. That's what I'm good at, putting
yeah.
everybody together around the wheel like that. But when it comes to writing, I can't do that.
Well, some
I
of
could
us
do
could never
everything
do
but
what
that.
well, I could never do a podcast and you know have the poise and the quickness and everything of every podcaster I know. I really admire them because they do it so seamlessly, so effortlessly, and you know everyone has different gifts. You know, so don't knock yours.
I think that's what's so great about Brian as well, is that you're doing this show and you're bringing people together. You're connecting them on a common ground, even if they don't have a common ground. We're having discussions that some people are afraid to talk about, you know. And I think that's just so important, and that is an art in itself. Although you may not be able to write you can express it through your words. You can vocally express that, and I think that is definitely a skill that not a lot of people
I
have.
agree.
So
I agree.
yeah.
And we need more good podcasters in the world because a lot of people might not have time to sit down and read a whole book because of the pandemic or obligations, work, multiple jobs, whatever. But they have an hour to sit down and to listen to a podcast and meet some new people and stuff. And that is enough to fulfill them and inspire them and encourage them. So your work too, Brian, is very, very meaningful and very necessary, very essential, dare I say the word essential.
Hey, so we got about 60 seconds, Thelma. Give the social media link so people can reach out to you and where they can buy your book.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I don't have them memorized, but my Facebook page is just Thelma T, my initial T, Thelma T. Reyna, Reyna. And my press site, you'll learn a lot about me and my fellow authors and our books. Golden Foothills, with an S at the end, goldenfoothillspress.com. And any other information they need, books, buying, ordering, whatever, and bios, those two places, they will get it. Thelma T. Reyna, Facebook, goldenfoothillspress.com, or press.
And what's the name of your books again?
Well, the one that came out earlier this year is Dearest Papa, a memoir and poems. This is the one that just won 2 national awards. The one before that, which won 6 national awards, wow, was Reading Tea Leaves After Trump. And that was written in real time during Trump's first year in office, all of 2017. What he said, what he did, a lot of footnotes, but it's poetry and prose. And that won 6 awards. And I am sad to say that all the upheaval that he engaged in, you know, the Muslim ban, the caging of the immigrant children, you know, wanting to kill Obamacare, killing all the environmental regulations that we had in our country, polluting our waters, selling off our parklands to oil drillers and frackers and coal mining, just destroying, setting back our environment 50 years, as a scientist said, and causing a lot of grief and suffering. He did all of that in 2017. He's out of the gate. He started doing those things. And that's what all my book is about, reading tea leaves after Trump. And the sad thing I need to end that commentary on is in 2020, all the same issues, the same problems on steroids.
Yep.
So those are my 2 latest books, The Dearest Papa and The Reading Tea Leaves.
Joanna, give your social media links.
Trump. And they're all on the Golden Foothills Press website.
My social media is trendingme.ca on Instagram, and trendingme.ca is my website, where I have a lot of my poetry, and also Trending Me on Facebook as well. And you can also see my works on theartofmontague.com.
Oh, that is wonderful. I'm writing all of this down, even though I still plan to send an email to...
I'll send you an email too. I definitely want to keep in contact with you.
Oh, thank you. I as I say, you know, the up and coming generation of writers, they're always very dear to my heart, because as with life itself, right, Brian, just with the politics of the world, it's the new generation that is the important one, because we need to make sure that they're getting the support and the grooming for them to carry on in our world.
So with that, I want to thank you, Thelma, for coming on, because we got that because there's 2 other people that want to meet you. So we have to do like a part 2 of you. So how do you?
Oh.
And then you will be able to correspond with Joanna and vice versa, and you'll be able to see what she's written so far, because I share her stuff not only on the Art of Montague, but on our Movie Reviews and More site. So I'm going to have to start sharing your stuff on our stuff too, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much. I love it. And I would love to be on the same page with our poetry on the same page with Joanna.
Yes.
We can make it happen.
Joanna, I hope you feel better now, because she wasn't feeling too good the last couple of days. So I'm sure we made her day today, right, Joanna?
Oh,
you guys definitely have made me feel like $1 million. So more than $1 million.
Well, guys, you are